Okay, hey everyone, welcome to the Grants and Resources 101 webinar. We're really excited to have you guys all here. We have a great lineup of speakers, and I think you're going to find the information super helpful. We are going to be recording this, so early for any reason, or you can watch it again. We'll have it sent out to you, and we'll also be sending out everyone's slides and contact info. And if any questions come up during, just put it in the chat box, and we'll either roll of everyone's session and follow up. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to go over the agenda real quick.
It's not really.
Okay, so here is a rundown of the agenda that we're going to go through. We have a really great lineup of speakers covering all parts of the state, all parts of grants and resources, and we'll probably wrap up a little bit earlier today, so there will be plenty of time for questions. If you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Laura Kate McAllister. I work at the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. I run our South Carolina Specialty Crop Growers Association. So we are a membership-based association for fruit and vegetable farmers. And we are also run by a board of directors who are growers themselves. And we do a lot of grant writing and advocating on behalf of growers. We host workshops and webinars and educational workshops as well. We advocate on the local level, the national level. And like I said, we are membership based. So our members join. It's a $25 annual fee, and you get access to everything that we do for growers. So one of the main things that we do as an association is we do write a lot of grants, specifically for the specialty crop block grant. That is a USDA grant, and it's just for specialty crop growers, but an individual farmer cannot apply for it. It has to be run through an association or a university. So I'm going to highlight some of the ones that we're currently offering, and then a few other SCDA grants that we offer. So the first one that we offer, it's been around for a few years, and it's gotten really positive feedback. It is called the Cold Storage Cost Share Program. So with this cost share program, it's a reimbursement type program. So we'll reimburse you for the purchasing of a CoolBot. And a CoolBot is a thermostat that connects to a traditional AC unit. And this allows you to turn any room into a walk-in cooler. And for the fraction of the price, it can save on electricity, and it's super easy to install. It can be set as low as 36 degrees without freezing up. So that's a really great component of it. The CoolBot itself costs about $350, and an AC unit goes for about $300, $350, and we'll reimburse growers up to $750, and we can reimburse you up to 2 CoolBots. So what a couple growers have done is they purchased one for on their farm, and then they have turned a truck into a basically cooling truck. So when they drive to farmers markets or deliveries, it's already refrigerated. So the only requirements for this is that you must be a specialty crop grower, have taken a food safety course in the past 2 years, and you just provide a copy of all your receipts, and you complete 2 simple surveys throughout the duration of the program. And when y'all get this PowerPoint, there's links at the bottom of everything that links to the application. The second one that we offer is a water quality analysis cost share program. So similar setup to the cold storage. We'll reimburse growers up to $1,000 per year per farm for having your water tested for things like E. coli and coliform. So the only requirement for that is that the testing facility just must report in a numerical value. It can't just be positive or negative, but it's up to you where you want to use it. Same thing as the other one, you have an application and you just submit primary receipts. This is really helpful if you want to pursue GAP certification or organic certification, because you will have to test your water inputs several times a year. And in the next year or two, water testing will become a requirement for the FSMA produce safety rule. So if you are not covered by that, you will want to look into getting water tested, and we will provide up to $1,000 per year per farm. The third one that we have is a new one this year. It is the Trade Show and Educational Cost Share Program. So these applications will be released April 1st. With this program, we understand that exhibiting at a trade show or registration for multiple educational conferences can become very expensive. So we will be reimbursing growers 50% of the cost. So that cost will cover your exhibitor fees, or it will cover your educational registration. So we've identified the kind of most popular ones that people go to, such as the PMA show, the New York Produce Show. We also have the Carolina Farm Stewardship Association Conference and the Southeastern Fruit and Vegetable Conference. So like I said, you'll fill out an application and those will be released April 1. They'll be about a month open. And then once you fill out an application, you'll be notified if you're accepted. Funding is limited this year since it is the first year that we're doing it. In the application, you have to include a brief marketing plan of how you currently market your crops. And you'll have to complete 3 surveys throughout the program. So you'll get an initial one to gather some baseline info. You'll get one after you attend whatever trade show or conference you decide to use it for. And you'll get one 6 months later so we can follow up. So like I said, that one will be released April 1. And if you're on the many grower lists that are circulating, you'll definitely be notified. But if not, feel free to shoot me an email if you don't get it, and I'll send it to you. The SCDA, a couple months ago, we have created a resource on our website. It's resources specifically for minority and women farmers. So it's a pretty lengthy list of different private organizations, national organizations, USDA programs that are all geared towards minority and women farmers. And this also does include some veteran information as well. So the link on the bottom is going to take you to the list. It's got about, over 100 resources on there. So it's best to, check that out and kind of see which one might fit you best. And that is housed on our SCDA website. Another one that SCDA offers is a GAP reimbursement. So if you currently sell at a farmer's market or maybe some direct consumer, but you want to get into larger markets, they are almost all going to require GAP, which is good agricultural practices if you're unfamiliar with it. If you want to sell to a school, it's going to require GAP. GAP is definitely becoming just the baseline in terms of food safety, and it will probably be required by all market outlets in the near future. With the GAP reimbursement that SCDA offers, you can get reimbursed for your inspection cost by the USDA because they charge the second they step out their door. So depending on where you are and where they live, it can add up definitely. So if it's your first time audit, you'll be reimbursed $750. And then it's $300 for each additional annual audit because you do have to be audited every year. So same process as all the other ones. There's an application, copies of receipts, and then it's usually about net 30 days when you get that reimbursement. This is a private organization that just recently came out with this COVID one. I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of. The Rural Advancement Foundation International, they just released a COVID-19 reimbursement. It's a straight $1,000 for if you're a grower. And that can cover any expenses made after March 1st, 2020. So this can include anything that you had to do additional for your farm due to COVID. So including, packaging, labeling, any, special refrigeration that you had to do or implement. It can cover up to $1,000. They also have a separate one for household relief. So you can get up to $500 if COVID affected you financially and caused you not to be able to make payments, bills, any other expenses that are not farm related. This just opened, I think March 4th. So it's only open till funds are limited, but this is a great one that's catered towards all farmers. And it's a super easy application. I looked over it the other day. And so you can either go to the link at the bottom of the PowerPoint, or if you just Google Rural Advancement Foundation International COVID-19, it should come up. But this is a great one that if anyone, really was affected, they could take advantage of. And again, this is my contact info, my email number. If anybody has any questions about these grants or the Specialty Crop Association or any other things involving fruit and vegetable at Department of Ag, I'll definitely help point you in the right direction, kind of get some answers for you, and we can figure out what to do next. But I'm now going to turn it over to Kyle Player.
Thank you, RK. Let me pull up my screen really quickly. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So, like I said, my name is Kyle Player. I'm the executive director of ACRE at the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. And I have a pretty unique opportunity to seek out innovative, outside the box agriculture folks and provide them an opportunity to receive what we do call grant funding. It's very different from your traditional grant, as is a little bit of what Laura Kate talked about too. But basically you're able to get funding from me that you don't have to match, that you don't have to pay back, that you don't have to pay to apply, anything like that. So it's a super good opportunity. I always say I hate to use the term free money, but that really is what it is. If you apply, there's no need to supply matching or anything like that. So first I want to talk, I have two programs, the curriculum program and then the advanced program. So I'm going to start with the curriculum program, which we actually partner with Clemson Extension, which Steve Richards, who will speak in a little bit, helps run our curriculum, where it's for folks. So some of you folks might want to start a farm, but don't necessarily know a way to literally do that. You might have a good idea for a product, or you might be a startup agriculture business or farm. So what we do is you apply for it. Now, both programs are competitive. So just because you apply doesn't mean you'll get in. So there is that one thing. But what we do is we teach a course where we actually help you build a business plan for either your idea or your existing business. In the end, we then have you pitch to a panel of judges for the opportunity to win up to $5,000 each. So last year we gave out we gave out seven, 5,000 and 2,500 grants. And so that's just a good opportunity. Again, if you're looking to start an agriculture business, looking to start a farm or in a startup, or maybe you've had a business for a little bit and you're a little stuck and maybe want to do something different, this could be a really good opportunity for you. And just to show you, to highlight a winner or two. So Alicia Holbrook was actually in our very first curriculum and was awarded $5,000. And then this past spring, she actually applied, in 2020, spring 2020. she applied and was awarded one of the advanced grants. So she ended up with 17,500 on top of that 5,000 that she received in curriculum. So the curriculum helped her build a business plan that she was then able to apply with for the advanced program, which I'll talk a little more in detail about that. And here's another just example from the curriculum we just completed in December. This is Keisha Kennard. She is from a, as you can see, a sweetgrass weaving family, and she wants to actually bring people on her farm and teach them how to weave and teach them the history of basket weaving in South Carolina, as it is a very, very rich history. So that just kind of gives you an idea of a couple of our curriculum folks. The only requirement for the curriculum is your business must be headquartered in South Carolina, or if you don't have a business yet and you have an idea, you must be a resident of South Carolina. So that is the two kind of requirements for that. Okay, then we have the Advanced Entrepreneur Program, which the applications are actually out for that right now and due May 3rd. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But this is one where it's for folks that already have a product, established business with sales. We do accept prototypes. So if you have a strong application and business plan for a prototype, that is accepted. And again, the business must be headquartered in South Carolina. Or again, if you do have a prototype, you must be a South Carolina resident or be planning to have your business headquartered in South Carolina. So for this one, it's a pretty lengthy application. The applications stay out 2 months. So the application is pretty lengthy, just getting some basic ideas of how you started your business, what you've done since you started your business, your goals, how your business affects South Carolina agriculture, and so on and so on. And then you also have to have a business plan. So that scares a lot of people when they hear it. And we actually got very good feedback from our first 3 years, and in partnership with Matson and with Steve with Clemson, we kind of put together a very detailed business plan guide of what we're looking for. So it's not a template. You can't just fill in, but it's very detailed, telling you exactly what we're looking for in the plan, and most importantly, the financials. That's the part most people have trouble with. So we've put that together to help. The applications are out now on my website, which I'll share all that information at the end too. But again, so you apply, you have an application, a business plan. If you're selected to be a finalist, you come to Columbia to pitch, which pitch day is June 23rd this year. You come to Columbia to pitch your business to an outside panel of judges. And from there, they select who to fund. So last year we had like 2 $30,000 award winners. We had 2 17,500s. We had a 10,000. I think we had a couple 12,500s in there. So again, it's a great opportunity. Again, it's all free to apply. If you do get the funds, you simply have to provide me with very simple grant reports, Excel spreadsheet on how you spend the money, and then I do site visits. That's it. So it's very simple compared to most grants that you're going through a government body, whether federal or state. So as you can see, like I said, those applications are out now. And when we send out all this material to y'all, when we're done with the webinar, I plan to include my application in there. So you'll have that if you are interested in applying. Okay, again, I just want to give y'all a quick idea of some of our past award winners. So Sam Norton, who does what's called sea beans, he irrigates all his crop with salt water in an indoor container, indoor warehouse. And he's actually really taken off. He actually just had an article in the Smithsonian Magazine. So he's been very successful. And again, this isn't something where we give you the fund and we stop. We're still continuing 3 years later to help Sam, whether it's look for grants, any kind of business mentoring. We're taking him down to Orlando to a trade show coming up next month. So it's not just have the money and then run. And here's just a little picture of Sam. And this is some of the outdoor stuff he does to actually help repair sledge sites. Okay, 2019, we had an oyster farmer in Charleston. We had Jared Jester, who vacuum packs bold peanuts and sells them. We had Brian Wheat, does loofah. So we just have a very wide range. Ty and Tracy are one of our few row crop farmers, and they actually take their crop and create 100% blankets that they then sell, and towels now too. We got Table Rock Tea Company, which he's one of the few tea growers in the United States. Actually, it's just not many around, especially small farms. And then here again, Ty and Tracy with their kids. So all their blankets are named after their kids. You should really check out their website. It's really neat. And then just this past one, we had someone that does earthworm casts that, helps create better soil. We have mushroom growers in Jackson. We have lavender with Michelle. Alicia, she's the one that did the curriculum and then won the advanced program also. She has an alpaca farm. So it's a wide variety. Here's our mushroom growers. And so again, it's a very wide variety. And even if you potentially don't think you're quite ready, contact me. I can kind of help you see if you are, or point you towards the curriculum potentially. But again, because it is free to apply, there's no match. I always encourage people to at least try. It can't hurt to, if you don't have a business plan, it's always good to at least create a business plan. And then just quickly, we do some other stuff like this webinar. We partner with everybody on here to hold usually in-person workshops, not webinars. We help people look potentially at value-added producer grants. So there's a lot of services outside just these two programs that we provide. And lastly, here's just my contact info. Again, I'll be sending all this out. Laura Kate and I will. And again, the applications for the advanced program are out now, due May the 3rd. And our curriculum applications usually go out in August, and that class starts in October and goes through December. So I think that's everything for me as far as ACRE goes. And again, we'll be sharing all this information. So next was supposed to be Jim Johnson with the South Carolina Small Business Development Center. Unfortunately, he had a family emergency and is not available today. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about what they do, and then we'll share this information. And next week, we'll actually get some more information from him to share with you. So let me just quickly, so the Small Business Development Center partners its own college campuses. So I know Winthrop, Clemson, SC State, South Carolina. Jim Johnson is located at the SC State in Orangeburg, and it is a free service. Which is very unusual for something like this, to help you get a business started, to help you go into a new market, to help you develop a new product, so on and so forth. All their services are free. And Jim, though he's located in Orangeburg, he works with people across the state. He concentrates on agribusiness. So he's specific. He does some stuff outside of that, but he's the one that really heads up helping any agribusinesses within the state. And let me just pull up, I think these flyers show a little better what they provide. So here's kind of what they do. So farm consulting service. So anything from starting your farm to growing your farm to farm safety with GAP certification, which you heard Laura Kate mention. And then he also works with Ace Basin Growers, which is a food hub. So he helps connect growers to that hub in addition to actually working the hub. And then similar to Laura Kate with the Specialty Crop Association, he does some, SBDC does some small grants. So they also do money towards a GAP audit, which I won't go into that too detail because Laura Kate already covered it. And then value-added processes. So if you're looking, let's say you grow strawberry and you look to make jam yourself. So that could be something that goes for. And then if you're trying to move towards a wholesale market, which again, as you heard Laura Kate, mention, the rules can get a little more stringent once you get into that.
Sorry to interrupt. Are you supposed to have a different slide up than yours?
Oh, sorry, is the wrong thing up?
Yes, ma'am.
My bad. Okay, let's see. Okay, do y'all see the SBDC stuff now?
No, ma'am. Just a gallery view of all of our pretty little faces and names.
Okay, what about now?
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that, y'all. And again, you'll be receiving all this via email. So that's they, as you can see, they have these small grants up to $2,000. So again, I know a lot of these sound like not a lot of money, but stuff adds up. And again, these are much easier processes than what you're going to hear Jim and Jessica talk a bit about later, when you're going after potentially federal grants or other state grants. And then lastly, this again just talks a little bit more about the gap. So they do, they work with Carolina Farm Stewardship Association to do gap audits. So again, that's what that 2,000 can help cover. And then, excuse me, which now so many people, unless you're direct to consumer, you pretty much for most things need to be gap certified these days. So that is all for SBDC. Again, sorry, I'm no replacement for Jim, who's been heading up the Orangeburg office for years. But like I said, we'll share all this information with you. And then I'll also have some follow-up information from Jim when he does get back into the office sometime next week. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? I haven't been able to look at the chat. If not, I'll go on to Steve. Okay, so next I'm going to turn over to Steve Richards. Like I said, he is one that helps me with my curriculum, or not just helps me, but basically runs it and teaches it all. And he's with the Clemson Extension Agribusiness team, and he's going to talk to you about a few opportunities that they have.
Great, thanks, Kyle. All right, so yeah, I'm going to give you a whole laundry list of things also, so a lot of information in this webinar. Some things I'm going to talk about are some things that Clemson Agribusiness is involved in, and that are also resources for you. A lot of these are educational, so it also includes technical assistance as well. I'll talk about Annie's Project, Feeding Innovation, South Carolina New and Beginning Farmer Program, and finally the South Carolina Center for Cooperative and Enterprise Development. So I actually said that without tripping up. Annie's Project. Basically, Annie's Project is for women. It started in the Midwest, basically, with women that were looking to do an alternative farming enterprise on, maybe larger commodity farms. And they thought, well, I want to do something different. And so this program is aimed at women that want to do a business plan. It's a really good course, and they're still accepting applications at this point. And if you're interested, contact Charlie Maxwell at the email below. You'll get a copy of these slides afterwards in case you don't get it written down. Another program is a lot like what Kyle talked about for her ACRE curriculum program. It's in terms of it helps you do a business plan, and that's Feeding Innovation. The business plan, though, for this particular course has to be a healthy food business. So it's a little bit more narrow. It's not just raising animals or all that. You really have to concentrate on solving the issues of food deserts and lack of access to healthy foods that occurs in rural areas and in larger cities. I just teach the class. The people behind it is the South Carolina Community Loan Fund, and there is quite a bit of money that is available for the three top business plans for that program. And you can see since 2014, they've given away 170,000 in seed capital. And it used to be just one award winner per course, and now they've got a first, second, and third prize. If you look at the numbers there, we're looking at 5,000, 10,000, and even 30,000. So lots of money. But again, it's narrow. You have to have a healthy food business, and you know, it's not just open for everybody. And so basically, that we're running 2 courses a year on this. Where I'm currently teaching a course that's already closed for applications. But if you want, or you're interested in the fall, there's some, I'm thinking the next slide. Nope, I guess not. I had the contact information on there, and then they sent me the slides they wanted, and now the contact information's gone. But I will, Kelly Sharkey is the person to contact, and she, and if you go to the Feeding Innovation website, which is basically the South Carolina Community Loan Fund.org, you can find the application. So it's not too early to apply. It looks like the open period's between May 3rd and June 4th. So if you want to get on this fall's class, get on the website and apply. Clemson's been doing this New and Beginning Farming program for quite a while as well. I'd like to talk about that for a minute. And it's educational. It's more focused not necessarily on doing a business plan. It's more focused on starting a farm. So all the nuts and bolts of getting farming started, growing things, that sort of thing. Here's some pictures. It's a really nice collage, so I thought I'd share it, of all the kind of testimonials of people that have gone through the class. And I think really, if I were to say something about all these programs you're hearing about today, once you get in the pipeline, whether you start with Kyle or you start with the beginning farmer programs, or you tend to remain in the pipeline, and you just find that there's a lot of resources out there, and not just seed capital, but education, technical assistance, that sort of thing. So New and Beginning Farmer program's been around since 2010. Basically, anybody over the age of 18 can participate in the program. It is a, like the other programs, it is a, you have to apply and you have to be accepted. So it's not basically open to everybody at all times. They have to cut off attendance at a certain number. So the current enrollment period is closed, but keep your eyes peeled next year around the January, February timeframe, and get your name in the ring for this if you're interested. The person to contact is Ben Boyles. He's down here, or Diana Vosbrink, and I've got their emails here. And if you want to visit the website, there's a couple websites here that you can see more about what they do and what they teach at scnewfarmer.org. And finally, this is something new with Clemson Extension and Department of Agriculture, with Kyle, with Jimmy Johnson and the Small Business Development Center, and Jim Matson, who you'll hear from in a little bit. That's basically, it's a partnership to try to bring technical assistance for a lot of the things we already talked about, because maybe, you know, it just doesn't line up that you're going to take a class, you know, or it doesn't line up that for your schedule to actually go through one of those things. Maybe you need some assistance right now. It's really focused on rural areas, and the priority is cooperatives. In anything that a group of people or farmers are looking to do, it's really something that we're, you know, top priority. But of course, we help any individual business owner as well. But certainly, if you're looking to start some sort of collaborative effort, whether it's a co-op or a multi-member LLC, anything like that, give us a call. This website here is where you can find more information. And also, there's some good resources already up on the site, and these are collaborative efforts between the partners that I mentioned. But you can actually get some of the curriculum that we use in Acre on the site right now. You can actually get a punch list of how to get a business started. So all the permits, all that sort of thing, the things you need to think about, you can get that off the website. And we're looking at putting more booklets up here within the next 2 months on how to basically transfer a business, how to do partnerships and co-ops and things like that. So keep your eyes peeled and visit often. We'd like it. And if you're interested in any of those materials that I just mentioned at the last part of the center, feel free to give me a call. I got my number there and my email. I'll be happy to help you out.
Thank you, Steve. That was a lot of great information. Like I said, I know we're throwing a lot at you fast, but so much of this is so helpful, and we feel like a lot of people don't know about it. So we wanted to do our best to get the word out better. So I'm going to now pass it along to John Carmen. Excuse me, John. He's with SCORE and specifically with the Aiken chapter. And I'll let him talk a little bit more about what SCORE does and the services they provide, specifically business plans. So John, let me share my screen real quick with your slide. Okay, can everybody see that?
Thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome.
I think we're there. My name is John Carmen again, and I've been a small business mentor with SCORE for about 8 years, all of it here in South Carolina. If you're not familiar with SCORE, it's a branch of the Small Business Administration, the U.S. Small Business Administration. And what we are the volunteer arm of the SBA. And we're in the business of mentoring and helping to start small businesses, to improve small businesses, and help small businesses grow to be something beyond small. That includes the agribusiness sector, and that's the area that several of us have chosen to focus on within SCORE. SCORE nationally has 10,000 volunteers, and we're all connected through our electronic system. So if we don't have the individual expertise that you or your business or your idea needs, we can almost certainly find someone in the US as part of that network to connect with you and to provide some help in getting started or provide additional information. All of the SCORE services are provided at no cost. All of the mentoring is. And most of the educational services are provided at no cost. And one of the resources that's simplest to locate is the score.org website, which has a lot of information there, including the information that I'm going to hit on here, talking about business plans and the importance of a business plan. So Kyle, let's see if we can go to the next one. There we go. This will be my last slide. Kyle's relieved to hear that. So why do you need a business plan? Almost every organization needs a plan. And every organization should realize that a plan is a living document. So we like to describe it as planning, ING, an active, ongoing effort that describes your business and shares information about your business to people who are important to your business. Those people include customers, employees, business partners, other resource people, people who have grants. Boy, is that on target here for today or what? And beyond that, your business plan begins to address the future. So usually there's a little bit in there about the growing of your business. So if you're an agricultural producer, hopefully I don't have to tell you that you're also in business, and the business plan, the need for a plan is really important. So far in this webinar, I think it's been mentioned 6 times before I started. Correct me if I missed one or duplicated. But business plans are very important for several reasons. So one reason is that you can build it in a way that it serves multiple purposes. And conversely, you can take it apart in ways and take the parts and apply them to applications where you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, because you've already invested your intellectual capital, your thought, your description of your product or your service in your business plan, and you repurpose it. You provide it to other people in other places and times when it's important. So on the screen here is a brief outline of what generally is in a business plan. And there's slight variations on this, but I believe that this is the outline that conforms to what the SBA and Clemson and others use in terms of what's in a business plan. Before I get into this a little bit, let me just tell you that this is not like a term paper. It's not like a thesis in graduate school. This document is brief, and we like to suggest total 6 to 12 pages. And you might get by with 5 or 6. You might need more than 12 if the need goes into additional details, such as if your business is in need of financing, a loan officer may require additional information in that financing section. You just pump it out and expand it. Usually it's more than a 1-year horizon within that financing section. And you project what your business needs are that the loan officer then can relate to. That sort of applies to the grant process as well. But just very briefly, the executive summary is just what it says. A very brief summary of your business. What are you all about? What are you trying to accomplish? Think 2 paragraphs, maybe 3, no more than a half a page. That's what the executive summary is. And then you get into the additional details of your business with these other sections, starting with a description, which is basically an overview of your business and your effort. And the next section gets into the products that you are growing or producing, or services that you're providing. The next big section is on marketing. How are you getting the word out? Who are you trying to get your product in front of? Who must buy the product or pay for the product or the service? And how are you reaching them? We get into a little bit on pricing. So if your product is fantastic and your pricing is astronomical, that's probably not good enough. You need an approach that balances out in the marketplace what the price of your product or service should be. And don't overlook the fact, in fact, commonly in the business plan, you make mention of who the competition is. Not necessarily by name, but describe competition. And that in turn is a huge part of the pricing in a competitive environment. Next item on here is financing, and I touched on that earlier. This can be either the single most important element of it if you're in need of a loan, or it can be a portion that if you're self-financing your business, you need that information so you know what your true expenses are and whether you're breaking even or not. So even if you don't need a loan, even if you're not asking for a grant, the financing is still important to your business. If it's not important to your business, that's what we call a hobby. And you can have a hobby in agribusiness, that's fine. But in the vast majority of cases, you must be headed towards being in the black, having some profit result from your business. And by the way, SCORE works with nonprofits as well as for-profit organizations. And the SCORE volunteers are kind of unique in that way. In our chapter, it's about 80% for-profit entities that we work with and about 20% nonprofit entities that we work with. That just happens to be the local mix in the 6 or so counties that we work in South Carolina. But I think that that's pretty close to the standard across the nation in terms of what SCORE volunteers are providing. And the SCORE volunteers, by the way, are not always, but frequently retired business folks many of whom have owned their own business and are intimately familiar with these elements in the business plan. And in some cases, they are matched up perfectly with the client in terms of what their business interest is. The truth is that a vast majority of these business elements apply across the board, regardless of what your product or service is. Again, unless it's a hobby. And then we can talk hobby all day. But if it's a business and you're trying to make a profit, this is the accepted structure for a business plan. And then other things that go into it are called appendices generally. And these are standalone documents typically. So in some cases, it's important to know who are the owners of the business. So you put a brief description in here of the owner or owners of the business. And if you've been in business for a while, it's real important to say, here's what our history has been, including some form of financial data. And usually that comes in the form of a profit and loss sheet or an income statement, balance sheet, something that shows what the business has been doing up to the point that you're writing the business plan and then sharing it with others. Kyle, I think that's pretty much all I was going to do in the wave tops, other than to tell folks that Kyle will share the entire slide deck with you. And by last count, there's 41 slides in here, I believe, Kyle. And this is one of the very last of the slides in that slide deck. So I'm available for help. So Kyle will be sharing my information. And then if you just want to apply for a SCORE volunteer, SCORE mentor, business mentor, go to score.org on the website. And there's a very simple application to request an initial meeting with a SCORE volunteer.
Yeah, and John, could you maybe quickly touch on, is there a SCORE volunteer in every county throughout the state, or how exactly does that work, since I'm sure these folks are from all over?
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're in charge. There are 6 SCORE chapters throughout the state of South Carolina. There's about just under 400 volunteers throughout the state. So going online to that score.org website and putting in the zip code is the most important thing, because that in turn will get your request shared with one of the chapters here in South Carolina. The dispersion of the volunteers varies quite widely. So in our case, we have 6 South Carolina counties. We have volunteers in 3 of them, but nobody's more than 45 minutes away from somebody else in this particular piece of geography. They're frequently clustered in the more metropolitan areas. I know there's some people who will go, Aiken is a metropolitan area? Yes, it is. It's a part of a bigger one, but yes, it is. So as a result of that, that's where the volunteers are for the most part. And I would say it's about a 1/3, 2/3 mix. 1/3 of the volunteers are still active in the business community, and 2/3 are retired or semi-retired in the business community. So that's kind of the makeup of the volunteers that come to play with all the folks that need some help, and to ask for it. You got to ask for it.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, and like John said, that's now SCORE, ACRE, SBDC, Specialty Crop, Clemson. Not everything we've talked about is free of charge, but that's so many resources that if you were looking to get a business consultant or something like that, that is not a cheap thing. So these are great resources that are free.
Well, thank you for saying that. And let me add that last year's ACRE Award recipients, out of the 7, 2 of them were SCORE clients. Yes. And 2 of them were in our area, in the Aiken area. So
yes,
I'm just proud as punch that.
And they were the 2 that actually won the biggest prizes, the 30,000s.
Ah, okay. Very good.
Yeah. So
we're very proud of them.
Yes. So and John continues to help them to this day. Again, it's not just a help one-off. We continue to help everybody. But Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I will now turn it over to Jim Matson and Jessica Shaw. They work with Matson Consulting and Aiken, and I will let them take it from here.
Cool. I'm Jim Matson. Jessica and I we're private consultants out of Aiken, and we kind of our work covers a lot of different areas in consulting. We work a lot of times with grant writing and application, putting things together. We partner with Kyle and both Steve for different program areas with them. So we also are private as well. So like you said, we're on that charge side with things. We do a little bit over $10 million a year of federal grants, as well as some states and some foundations. And you see a lot of this overlaps what they were talking about. You know, the next thing is business planning and strategic plans to figure out kind of where you're going and to update it as sort of the area we work in. We have a staff based here in Aiken, and we work actually around the whole country, but about a third of our work is in South Carolina. When you're going to look at grants, we're going to put up a couple places to look, because there's lots of areas out there. First, I'm going to start with bad news, because the first thing people want to come and talk about is they want a grant to start farming, to buy a farm, or buy a tractor. And those are just about non-existent. There's a very few exceptions to that, but basically if you're coming looking for somebody to give you money to get into farming and buy your first land or to pay for your tractor, you're in bad shape. Now, I will say that if you're a veteran, there actually is a veterans farmer program once a year where you can compete for a Kubota tractor with that under the veterans farmer program, but that's one of the few exceptions. But I was going to give a couple places to look for grants. USDA.gov on the farm side, just typing that in and typing grants in under your program area. And for most grants, the government has a pretty good website about what a particular grant has to option. And all the federal grants are listed under grants.gov. So again, search under keywords for the sort of thing you're looking for, and the more specific you can have. And again, looking at these programs ahead of time and trying to decide what you want to do, because, you know, grants always aren't the easiest thing to apply for. And I'll let Jessica, I guess, dive in a little bit with that.
Thank you. So I'll just touch really quickly on a couple of popular programs for farmers. One of them is the Value Added Producer Grant, and this one is currently active and accepting applications. We actually just did a webinar with Kyle and all the folks that goes over this program really in depth, and so they can share that with you guys after this webinar. But that grant program specifically focuses on providing funds for processing and marketing your value-added products, so basically not a commodity. But some changes that came out after we posted that webinar that I'll just highlight really quickly. They did add additional funding to that program for COVID relief. It was another $35 million to go towards projects. And under that as well, they changed the match requirement from a dollar for dollar match to now 10%. So now if you're applying for the full $250,000, you only have to provide $25,000. Sorry about that. And so that can be a really big help. Also, they've extended the deadline on that as well. So that is now due May 4th instead of March 22nd. One other thing to note is that they've also reduced the penalty of the type of match that you provide under that program. So instead of providing, sorry, I've got my helper here. So now instead of being penalized for providing in-kind versus cash match, you can now provide in-kind match, and you'll have the potential to receive just as many points as someone providing cash match. So if you have any other questions about the updates to that program after you view that original webinar, let us know. We can share that information with you guys. But then two other programs are the Local Food Promotion Grant and the Farmers Market Promotion Grant. Those are under the same program area, but the Farmers Market Promotion Grant focuses more on direct-to-consumer markets, and the Local Food Promotion Grant focuses a little bit wider on also including wholesale, but also direct-to-consumer. But they both are there to increase the access to and availability of local agricultural products. Under both of those programs, they are specific to benefiting a wider audience of farmers. So it can't just be a grant for serving one farmer, unlike the value added producer grant that can be for just your business. So this one is generally for like a group of farmers or a food hub or any sort of entity that serves more than one farmer. And then the specialty crop block grant, I won't go into that one since Laura Kate covered that one, but it is available. And then the Rural Energy for America grant is, it's not just specific to farmers, it's open to any rural business, and it can help provide funding towards like energy generation, so solar panels or wind turbines, and also updates to a facility that help make it more energy efficient. So were there any other programs, Jen, that you wanted to add in or talk about?
I was going to hit two with it, what we're talking about. One is the SARE program, S-A-R-E. That program has a farmer component where you can get up to $10,000 for sustainable ag type of production. So if you're looking at, organic or other things, or trying to research, farmers are always trying to look at new and innovative ways to do things. That program is definitely focused on that and trying to look at new and different approaches to agriculture. You can get up to $10,000 on a farmer grant, and that's a fairly simple application. And I was going to mention a couple of things have come out in the past week under the COVID funding bill, particularly for Black minority farmers. There was a provision in, and then we mentioned it for loan forgiveness under that funding that will be up to 120% of loans that you have a loan for USDA that will cover. And then there's also, and this is a little bit mystical, they haven't come out with the details on it, but they set aside, a little bit over $1 billion nationwide, looking at farmer training and specialty programs with that, particularly for Black and minority farmers. And, like I said, I would say watch this space a little bit as it comes down and look at the SCDA minority farmer page, because I think there's going to be some nice funding opportunities that will be kind of a one-time offer with that. So I would look at it as well. For slightly larger groups who are doing some local things, there also still are some opportunities in the farmer to food box program as well. But those are typically larger, a little bit more organized groups, not necessarily, starting things off with that.
Okay. So I can go into a little bit just now that we kind of have covered some of the programs and how to find those. The next thing is you want to figure out if you should actually apply for them. And one big thing to keep in mind is that grants are a substantial time commitment. You have the front end in making your application, so putting together all of the materials. And even if you have someone like us or any of the other resource providers that we've talked about today who's helping you with that, there's still time commitment of you gathering the documentation, getting letters of support if you need to, providing the information to the grant writers, all of that. So there's still that big upfront commitment. And then even after you've submitted it and it's been awarded, there's still that time commitment of managing the grant funds on the back end. A lot of these programs require reporting. Even some of the ones that were mentioned earlier that are conducted through the state, you still have to conduct some reporting or do surveys or something like that. And also just keeping track of how you spend the grant funds. So it's not just after you submit it, it's not just, you get a check and you're done. There usually is still effort on the back end for those grants. And I know Kyle made the comment earlier about one of her programs being free money, but we generally like to say that grants aren't free money, because even if there isn't a cash commitment that you have to put with it, there's still that time commitment, and that is still, worth time or worth money to you. And so just kind of have to keep that in mind. Again, most programs don't just write you a check and then walk away. So in considering if you should apply, basically don't waste your time if it's not worth it. Do the math and figure out, is the amount that you would be getting from the program worth that time and effort on the back end? If you're only requesting $5,000 and it's a 50-page plus application, is that worth the effort? The answer may be yes, and that's okay. But sometimes it may be no. So just kind of thinking about that ahead of time. And then also thinking, does the funding fit your business timeline? And meaning that by, are you going to be putting off stuff that you should be doing now because you're waiting for the hope of getting that grant funds? I know some projects that might be beneficial if you only have to wait a couple months and then you've got the funding that you need for it. But if you were putting off growing your business for the hope of the grant funding that, it's still competitive, it may or may not be there, that has to go into your decision process of, does it actually fit? And the other note that I'll make too is that some programs like the Value Added Producer Grant will state that they have an expected time frame of when funds would be awarded. But things change. They extended the deadline for this grant program. Obviously, COVID happened and things happen. So you can't always rely that those funds will be there when exactly you expect them to be there. So again, keep that in mind while you're kind of planning out if you want to apply. And then Jim's going to talk a little bit about eligibility and kind of thinking ahead on applications.
Yeah, and remember that particularly with federal and state grants, you're not coming in and negotiating, you're putting it down on paper and people are looking at it. So make sure before you start that your idea is fitting into what they want to fund. Because if it doesn't, you've wasted all your time, you've actually put yourself backwards as opposed to trying to help yourself out. So the first thing is double check to make sure you fit into it. And if they say they only fund, nonprofits and you're a for-profit business, you already are wasting your time if you turn something in, for example. Or you have to be in a county of a certain population, or you actually have to be the one who owns the farm. You may be, working with somebody else. So it's very specific with that. And, take that time to find out and get registered and talk to the program people ahead of time. So a lot of times for these grants, there's a large, lead in. And I know it's hard when people come in and say, well, I need the money now. But on federal grants, typically you're looking at least 6 months out before you're going to get any funding in your hands. There's some local grants that award a little bit quicker, but often just that time for there. So, so just, the thing of making sure that you're fitting into it. Also, not only do you fit into the requirements, but are you in the area they're trying to work with? Look at previous grants they funded. Is what you're doing kind of fitting into that program, or is it something entirely different? And it, may be harder to jump through that hurdle if you're not, who they're looking for to give their money away to. So we just wanted to hit that, to think about it ahead of time. I know we're talking about grants, and we're spending as much time in some ways talking you out of grants, but we know how important your time is for there. So, so we just wanted to hit that. So think about it when you're looking at it. And, again, that grants aren't free money, and get your business plan. Most grants require something very similar to a business plan, even if they don't call it that. So often doing a business plan or a business plan type of planning is a great place to start with there. And with that, I think we were going to bounce it back to Kyle. And,
Hey, Jim, Jessica. So Sherry had a question. Could you expand a little more on the food box program you mentioned quickly, Jim?
Yeah, that's the Farmers to Food Box program. It's something that's come out with COVID relief, and it is competing to basically be providing money for nonprofits, food banks, and other things with that. Again, and it's the Farmer to Food Box program. And typically that's not going to be for a new farmer. That's going to be somebody who's in the business and already doing wholesale. But I wanted to mention that that's a program area out. And some of these people that are in that program have been working with other local farmers to do that. For example, the Ace Basin participates in that program. So they may be looking and working with local farmers for that area.
Yep. Thank you, Jim. Thanks, Jim and Jessica. That was great. And so a lot of what Jim and Jessica actually talked about, for example, if you are a specialty crop producer and you want to join Laura Cape's Specialty Crop Association, that gives you an opportunity to be involved on going in on some of these federal grants that as an individual farmer or individual producer, you wouldn't have the opportunity to. So keep that in mind too. So you're not just thinking about federal grants in that way, but also, well, hey, this association would help me potentially market, the product for all the specialty crop growers or whatever that may be. So I think, I know, like I said, I know we've thrown a lot of information at you. Hopefully it's been very helpful. Like I said, we feel like a lot of these resources aren't known widely by a lot of folks. So we do our best to get it out to you. We all work together constantly. So contacting, one of us, you're basically contacting all of us because we do a lot of collaboration. So we'd be happy, obviously, if I think Steve's a better fit for what you're looking for, I'll send you directly to Steve or Laura Kate or whatever it may be. But again, we hope all this information was helpful. Once the video converts, which does take a while, so it'll probably be tomorrow, I'll send an email with the video, with all the presentations that have been talked about today or you've seen today. I'll also, that was a good idea that Jessica mentioned, I will send out in the same email the VAPG recording. Do keep in mind, as Jessica said, some of those rules have changed with the match and the due date. So do keep that in mind if you watch that one. Laura, Kate, Steve, Jessica, John, Jim, anything to add, or does anyone have any questions before we get off here? I guess we covered everything. Okay, thank you all so much. And again, look for an email probably tomorrow for me receiving everything. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.